very warm welcome. I am Gursheen Garland and you're watching Firstpost. In the next few minutes, I get you the top 40 updates from around the world, only here on Fast and Factual. Let's get started. We begin with the latest from South Asia. India and the United States returned to the negotiating table in New Delhi today. Weeks after President Donald Trump imposed 50% tariffs on Indian exports over what Washington claimed was New Delhi's purchase of Russian oil. U.S. Trade Representative for South Asian Brendan Lynch led the American side, while Senior Commerce Ministry official Rajesh Agrawal represented India. The meeting marked the first engagement since the tariffs took effect on August 27. In the United States, President Donald Trump said that military carried out a strike on an alleged Venezuelan drug cartel vessel in international waters, killing 3 men. The president released a video of the incident claiming the boat was carrying cocaine and fentanyl. The strike was the second in recent weeks amid a major U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean, which now includes F-35 jets, 7 warships and a nuclear-powered submarine. Meanwhile, President Trump will land in Britain later today for a second state visit, the first time a U.S. president will receive such an honor twice. He will be welcomed with pageantry including a carriage procession with Britain's King Charles and a state banquet at the Windsor Castle. The visit will also feature agreements worth $13.6 billion and high-level talks with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, alongside discussions on Ukraine, trade and security. U.S. and Chinese officials said that they had reached a framework agreement to shift TikTok to U.S.-controlled ownership, with Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping set to confirm it in a call on Friday. The deal followed 2 days of talks in Madrid led by U.S. Treasury Secretary and Chinese Vice Premier ahead of a September 17 deadline that could have disrupted the app in the United States. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that President Trump would likely meet Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky next week in New York during the UN General Assembly. Rubio said President Trump was still seeking to broker a peace deal between Kiev and Moscow after holding multiple calls with President Putin and meetings with Zelensky in recent months. The president has threatened sanctions against Russia if it fails to compromise, but he has yet to act. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio said the U.S. and Qatar were close to finalizing an enhanced defense cooperation agreement days after Israel struck Hamas leaders in Doha. This followed President Donald Trump's comments on Monday that Israel would not carry out further strikes against Qatar. The attack, which Doha condemned as cowardly and treacherous, was especially sensitive as the Gulf state hosts the largest U.S. base in the region and has led ceasefire mediation talks with Egypt. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel was facing a kind of isolation that could last for years as global backlash mounted over the war in Gaza. Speaking at a finance ministry conference, he said the economy would need to become more self-sufficient and that Israel would expand its weapons industry to reduce reliance on foreign imports. Netanyahu's remarks came amid growing international accusations of genocide and opposition at home over the war's escalation. Australia and Papua New Guinea will sign a new defence treaty on Wednesday, committing to defend each other against armed attacks. The agreement, marking Papua New Guinea's 50th year of independence, will also allow citizens to serve in each other's militaries and pledge joint action against common dangers. It will follow last year's security deal and is widely seen as a move to counter Beijing's growing influence in the Pacific. In Africa, Malawians went to the polls today in presidential election dominated by a rematch between incumbent Lazarus Chakwera and his predecessor, Peter Mutharika. Long queues formed across the country as voters cast ballots amid rising inflation, fuel shortages, and the aftermath of climate shocks that have deepened poverty. In Argentina, President Javier Milei announced that his government would boost spending on pensions, health and education and disability support next year after nearly 2 years of harsh austerity. Unveiling the draft budget, he said the worst is over, even as his party reeled from a major electoral defeat in Buenos Aires province ahead of month's midterm. On to climate news now. A cloudburst struck the Indian city of Dehradun on Monday night, submerging houses in Tapovan and causing severe waterlogging in Sahasradhara. 2 people were reported missing and all schools were ordered to close amid heavy rain and flooding. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah spoke to Uttarakhand's Chief Minister, who said relief operations were being monitored closely with full support from the central government. Meanwhile, in the Indian city of Rishikesh, the Chandrabhaga River was in spate from this morning following a cloudburst that triggered floods in Uttarakhand. The State Disaster Response Force rescued 3 people who were stranded in the river. Floodwaters also reached the highway, leaving several vehicles stuck in the water. Heavy overnight rainfall in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh caused severe flooding in Mandi district, submerging the local bus stand and sweeping away multiple vehicles. Meanwhile, 3 people died and 2 were rescued after a landslide triggered by the rain struck the district. Debris from a cliff collapsed onto a house, leaving 1 person missing. Authorities said the flooding also forced residents to seek refuge on rooftops. A landmark World Trade Organization agreement to curb billions of dollars in fishing subsidies came into force on Monday after being ratified by Brazil, Kenya, Tonga and Vietnam. The deal, first reached in 2022 after more than 2 decades of negotiations, prohibited subsidies for overfished stocks and for fishing in international waters beyond national jurisdictions. Activists say the move would give global fish stocks a chance to recover. United Nations officials urged their staff to limit attendance at this year's COP30 summit after soaring hotel prices in the Amazon city of Belém that raised concerns among government delegations. Brazil said it was nearly doubling available rooms but rejected calls to relocate the conference. Several developing countries warned they could not afford the accommodation costs as negotiators prepared to gather in November for the key summit on global climate action. On to business and tech news now. Asia stocks climbed during early trade today as investors bet the U.S. Federal Reserve would resume its easing cycle this week and potentially leave the door open to further rate cuts. Markets hardly reacted to news that the U.S. Senate narrowly confirmed Stephen Miran to the Fed's Board of Governors, while a U.S. appeals court separately declined to allow President Donald Trump to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. The Indian benchmark equity indices are trading higher today, tracking firm global cues and optimism over India-U.S. trade talks. Hopes of a rate cut by the U.S. Federal Reserve also aided buying. Sensex advanced 0.39% during early trading. Meanwhile, Nifty climbed 0.34%. Among the major gainers were banking and oil stocks. Gold prices scaled a record peak today, supported by a weaker dollar ahead of the Federal Reserve's policy meeting this week, where the U.S. Central Bank is widely expected to cut borrowing rates. Spot gold rose 0.1% after hitting a record high earlier in the season. Troubled Indian budget carrier SpiceJet said it would lease 8 additional Boeing 737 aircraft to bolster its fleet ahead of the festive and winter season. The latest deal takes the airline's total fleet additions to 18 aircraft, including 2 earlier agreements to lease 10 Boeing jets scheduled for delivery starting in October. President Donald Trump said that U.S. companies should be allowed to report earnings every 6 months, instead on a quarterly basis, announcing what could prove to be a major shift for corporate America. The president said on his social media site Truth Social that change, which he had previously called for in 2018, would cut costs and discourage short-sightedness on the part of publicly traded companies. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission said it was making Trump's proposal a priority. The Trump administration said it was ordering Delta Airlines and Aeromexico to unwind their joint venture by January 1 that had allowed the carriers to coordinate scheduling, pricing and capacity on U.S.-Mexico routes. The U.S. Transportation Department had proposed ending the nearly 9-year partnership in July as part of a series of actions targeting Mexican aviation. The move followed a review which began under former President Joe Biden in January 2024, when officials first said they were considering terminating the deal. Tesla CEO Elon Musk purchased about $1 billion worth of company shares in the latest vote of confidence from the billionaire. The announcement sent Tesla stock up 6% in early trading on Monday, marking Musk's first open market buy since early 2020. The purchase came at a crucial time for Tesla as it pushed to transform into AI and robotics powerhouse while grappling with slower car sales. Google says it would make $6.80 billion in new investments into Britain ahead of President Trump's state visit to the country, which is expected to feature a flurry of business deals and partnerships. The U.S. tech company also announced the opening of a new data center close to London, designed to help meet growing demand for its AI-powered services like Google Cloud, Search, Maps, and Workspace. Google parent Alphabet has valuated into the $3 trillion club. The shares climbed over 4% on Monday, pushing the company's market capitalization into the elite cohort of tech giants, with valuations above that threshold, including Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft. The stock's recent uptrend has also been fueled by this month's antitrust ruling, which spared Google from having to divest its Chrome browser. Data center operator CoreWeave said it signed a $6.3 billion initial order with backer Nvidia. The deal guaranteed that AI chip maker would purchase any cloud capacity not sold to customers. Shares of CoreWeave rose 8% as the agreement cemented its role as a key Nvidia cloud partner and protected it against a possible drop in demand for AI computing. Moving to sports, today we start with updates from cricket. The International Cricket Council has rejected Pakistan's request to remove match referee Andy Pycroft from the Asia Cup. Pakistan accused him of bias after no handshake controversy. Pakistan claimed Pycroft instructed teams not to shake hands after the match. The ICC said it has full confidence in Pycroft's neutrality and refused to replace him. Sri Lanka beat Hong Kong in their Asia Group stage match by 4 wickets. Hong Kong, batting first, put up 149 runs for 9 wickets. Pathum Nissanka led the chase for Sri Lanka for 68 of 44 balls. Then came a late cameo from Vanindu Hasaranga, who seals the victory. Sri Lanka next faced Afghanistan on the 18th of September. Afghanistan pacer Naveen ul Haq has been ruled out of the Asia Cup. He has suffered a shoulder injury. Abdullah Ahmadzai, who debuted recently, has been named his replacement. Naveen had already missed matches earlier because of fitness concerns. He will now undergo treatment and rehabilitation while the team continues without him. In football, the 2025-26 UEFA Champions League starts today. Europe's top 36 clubs will compete in the first season under the new expanded format. Instead of the old group stage, teams now play in a single league table with 8 matches each. The top 8 go straight to the round of 16, while those ranked 9 to 24 play playoffs to qualify. England midfielder Jude Bellingham has returned to Real Madrid's squad. He will play in Madrid's opener against Marseille on Tuesday. Bellingham has not played a match since the FIFA Club World Cup. He underwent surgery in July for a long-standing shoulder injury. Now, the 22-year-old has been cleared to play. Sweden's Armand Mondo Duplantis has set a new pole vault world record. He cleared 6.30 meters at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. This is his 14th time breaking the world record. Duplantis has now won his 3rd straight world title. NFL great Tom Brady has announced another comeback. This time he will play in a flag football tournament in Saudi Arabia. The event, called the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, is set for March 2026 in Riyadh. It marks Brady's 3rd return since leaving professional football. President Trump has again attacked a new National Football League rule. The league changed its kickoff rules to improve player safety. Trump called it quote-unquote sissy football and said it kills the excitement of the game. The new regulation is to prevent injuries from high-speed collisions on kickoffs. Indian chess star R. Vaishali has won the FIDE Grand Swiss tournament. With the victory, she qualifies for the candidates event. The candidates tournament decides who will challenge for the world title. It is Vaishali's 2nd consecutive Grand Swiss win. George Beamish of the New Zealand won the 3,000 meter steeplechase at the World Athletics Championships. He overtook defending champion Sufyan El Bakkali in the final lap. The win gave New Zealand its first ever world title on the track. Beamish's victory was seen as one of the biggest upsets of the championship. And finally, to entertainment news. Ratings from the 2025 Emmy Awards has continued their climb from all-time lows. About 7.42 million viewers had tuned in to watch the award ceremony, an 8% jump from last year's broadcast. It was the most watched Emmys telecast since 2021. The last time the show reached over 10 million views was back in 2018 when it drew 10.2 million. Meanwhile, Colombian-American actress Sofia Vergara, best known for her role in Modern Family, was forced to miss the 2025 Emmy Awards after suffering what she called the craziest eye allergy just hours before the show. The 53-year-old shared photos and videos from hospital saying she had to cancel her plans to present an award at the ceremony on Sunday. Bobby Hart, the songwriter behind many of the American band Monkees' biggest hits, died at his Los Angeles home at the age of 86. With his partner Tommy Boyes, he wrote classics including Last Train to Clarksville, I Am Not Your Stepping Stone and the Monkees' theme song. The pair also penned tracks for other artists, campaigned politically and remained a defining force in pop music through the 1960s and beyond. The latest Demon Slayer movie became Japan's second highest grossing film ever, earning 33 billion yen or $224 million within 60 days of release. The anime blockbuster surpassed Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away and also topped the North American box office this weekend with a $70 million debut. With its 2020 film still holding the #1 spot, the Demon Slayer franchise now dominated the top 2 positions in Japan's all-time box office rankings. And die-hard actor Bruce Willis' wife, Emma Hemming Willis, said the couple had developed their own language as the actor lived with frontotemporal dementia. She explained ahead of her new memoir that she relied on body language, eye contact to understand her husband, who was first diagnosed in 2022. The 70-year-old star's care is being led by his family as researchers in Wales continue trials into possible gene therapy for the disease. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushin Galan and we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.